Hi, I'm Steve Hingtgen. I served in the Vermont Legislature for 3 terms around early 2000s, starting in 2000. I want to talk just for a moment about the formation of the Labor Caucus in the House of Representatives. I formed the Labor Caucus in the last half of my service as a response to what I saw was sort of a lack of any sort of economic justice agenda in the legislature. Vermont doesn't have a large private labor union population, and so where in some states we might see that there are strong forces of labor working to sort of craft a justice agenda. In Vermont, we didn't have that. We have a lot of public unions, and as a legislator, if you're working in economic issues, you're regularly interacting with members of the state employees union, the teachers union, and others, and so you start to hear those agendas. But what was not happening was that the body, the General Assembly and the Vermont Senate, didn't really understand the context, the economic context around the needs of workers, regular folks, and remember that the context in Vermont is also that the Democratic Party has a majority in both bodies and has for a very long time. And so that means that to get new things done, to get progressive things done for workers in Vermont, you need a push. And without having the body have any kind of an economic analysis based in labor, I felt like there really wasn't a way to build the momentum needed to move some economic issues. And unfortunately, we had to start at square one. So seeing that, I approached the advocates in the building for the public labor unions and the AFL-CIO, and told them I was going to put together a caucus, a nonpartisan caucus of legislators from districts who already understood labor issues, and there weren't a lot of us, and try to build out a group that could advocate for legislation to support workers. So we began this caucus with just a few people, and it was important to me to have Democrats on the leadership. So I co-chaired this with a Democrat, and we got a lot of skepticism. Even the advocates couldn't quite imagine how this was going to come together. There weren't other caucuses in the building. There were a few, but they were small. I believe there was a women's caucus, which was successful, and there were, I don't remember any others. And so this was a bit of an odd model, and it was really important that it be successful. As a progressive, bringing this idea, I think that it was seen as possibly a partisan endeavor. And it was so important to me that it not be that, because we needed to build knowledge. We need to build kind of a framework for being able to push any kind of economic justice issues. So what the work of the caucus was to reach out to and to bring into the caucus and have discussions with the advocates outside the building, folks who were working on livable wage was an obvious one, working on local labor fights, whether if a strike was about to happen, or if the state employees or a private union were working on something in their contract negotiations, to bring it in and educate the legislators about the context for those disagreements, so that they could be on the right side of history when it came time to it. And it was not a obvious thing to anyone how this conversation was going to go on. So that was sort of the way we began the conversation to do economic justice education among legislators. And I'm really happy to hear that the caucus has continued and has strengthened over time. And it's something that I think in a state like Vermont, in order to build the the push necessary to get economic justice legislation through. Constant education of legislators is important. So a vehicle like this is just a really helpful way to get that done.